Hey, Boosh here. Just wanted to do some Questnaut lore with you. First race we're going to talk about, the Implins. Physically, Implins are an all-male race. There are no female Implins, or physically female. Though they can breed with each other, and I probably shouldn't go into all that much detail. But literally, Implins can breed with anybody. And when they do, they produce more Implins. There's no half Implins. It's you're pregnant with the Implin litter, and if you make it through birth, you are either A, an immortal god, or B. No, there's no B. You're an immortal god. There's really no way you could really survive being ripped apart from the inside, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk more about the Implins and how they look physically. Physically, they all look male, and they usually have they're usually around 2 to 4 feet tall, around 30 to 60 pounds. They can get chubby, though they're usually sort of bandy and whatnot. Skin color can go from pale white to a darkish brown, but sometimes go into shades of red, blue, or green, depending on how diseased they are. Their hair usually goes from white, blonde, brown, chestnut, black, and gray. So they're kind of human-like skin colors. Eye color? Well, their eyes don't have pupils. They're usually just a plain color or, a glowy sort of effect to them. But they're usually a solid white, yellow, green, blue, or red. And for their lifespan, they can live up to 40 years, but most of them don't. They tend to mature at around 1 year old, and they live fast and they live hard. A few more physical traits: they tend to have sharp teeth and claws. Their hair can get lengthy if they, don't get it ripped out for some reason. And they have large eyes and tend to not have body hair other than the hair on their head. But really, some Implins sort of stray from this. They also have, just for another little secret physical ability that they tend to be able to see very well in the dark. And are incredibly nimble and acrobatic even. And they're also decent climbers, but are better at stealthy pursuits. Let me tell you what they're like personality-wise. Implins usually act on their pure id, and this gives them the stereotype of eat, fuck, kill, or not necessarily in that order. Maybe sleep. Who knows? But they do whatever their heart desires, and if they desire something, they're going to do it. And they can't really help themselves sometimes. Now, some are better at helping themselves than others, but other than that, they're not very charismatic. They'll burp in public. They don't care. And they'll do whatever they want in public, usually. They're more seen as pests than actual citizens. Some of them aren't even really seen as people. And some people even farm these little bastards because they think they make great, I'll feed them to my replace dogs with Implins.
Or cannon fodder.
And usually have them as cannon fodder so, troops can get around and flank from the side. They got lots of uses on the battlefield. And usually, point them in a direction and tell them food, and they'll probably believe you. Some of them aren't that smart, though. Some of them can be very intelligent, and just because they follow their id doesn't mean they're idiots. They can be clever, and they'll do whatever they can to follow their desire. Do not underestimate them. Now, let me get into the, Implin traits. Oh, and one other thing about Implin society. They're not great at the arts and everything. They don't really have a kingdom of their own. They're just... Who knows what planet they even really came from? That planet is long gone. They got on a ship, they managed to, drift on, and they just sort of infest the galaxy. There's no getting rid of the Implins. They breed like crazy. let me talk about the fashion of Implins. Fashion, they don't really have much one. They don't really have a true culture. They tend to wear sort of sackcloth if they can. They're not just walking around experiencing nature in their purest form. But most of their clothes can either be like a sackcloth, whatever they can find around them, or sometimes skin, and sometimes the skin of other Implins or other creatures. So, if you see an Implin wearing a hat, it might be made out of its friend Jeffrey. Who knows? Let me talk about the variants. We have the standard one, probably shown in the picture in this video. Looks like your typical Implin. Then we have the tailed Implin. These Implins tend to be better at acrobatics and climbing, but aren't as their teeth aren't as great as the other Implins. They're not known for being very good biters, if at all. They do have a prehensile tail that almost acts like a third arm, and can almost be used to wield other weapons, if not, gain strategic advantage using this third limb. Next we have the brainy Implin. These Implins aren't as physically keen as the other two, as the tailed Implin and the standard. But the brainy Implin has its mind to help him out. He might be not as smart, but he's great at convincing you that he is the greatest thing in the room. Especially if you're another Implin. If you're another Implin, you're usually following this guy. And if you're not following this guy, you're following the next kind of Implin. The boss Implin. The boss Implin can get up to 5 to 7 feet tall, which a typical Implin's around 2 to 4 feet tall. So these guys are big. And they tend to be very barrel-chested or fat. Though they're usually strong and usually have pretty good reflexes. And they're even a lot thicker than their other Implin counterpart, almost having a thick hide to them. And they act just like our standard Implin. Sometimes they lead Implins, and sometimes they work with a brainy Implin to, rule over a colony. And if breeding goes on, this guy is usually in charge. Well, I think that's all I can think of about Implins. If you have any more questions about Implins, I can make another video. Just comment down below. Other than that, hope you guys enjoy.